Ana de Armas stood under the hot lights, her heart beating too fast for comfort. The cameras were rolling, the crew was silent, and the entire set held its breath. She could feel the weight of their eyes pressing into her skin, waiting for her. Next line. Her fingers curled around the edge of her dress, trying to ground herself, but nothing came out. The words were gone, just gone. She blinked, looked past the camera lens toward the shadowy figures watching, and felt something break inside. Her mouth opened slightly, but there was no voice, no memory of the dialogue. Her mind had gone blank like a wiped slate. A whisper of doubt slid through her thoughts. "You're messing this up." It had been a tough week. Interviews, rehearsals, the director's sharp tone, the pressure. The loneliness in a city that never really knew how to love softly. Ana wasn't just tired. She was empty. And now here, in front of everyone. She had failed. The silence stretched long. Then dash movement. Keanu Reeves stood from his mark and stepped gently toward her. There was no drama in his steps, no hurry, no scolding, just calmness. Like a breeze arriving to cool the sweat of panic, he reached her without a word. The crew looked around, unsure what was happening. The director was just about to call cut when Keanu stopped in front of Ana. It was close enough for only her to hear. His voice was quiet, almost like a secret. "Breathe, Ana. You're allowed to forget. We're here with you." She blinked again. The tears were building now, fast and sharp. But then he smiled gently and whispered one more thing. "The world doesn't stop when you forget a line. It waits for you. It's just like I'm waiting now." Ana looked at him, really looked something. Inside her chest eased. Her fingers relaxed. She breathed in slowly. And when she spoke the next line, her voice was soft but steady. The scene carried on, and not a single person on set said a word. When it ended, they didn't need to, because everyone had felt it. Not just the recovery of a scene, it's not just the rescue of a line. They had witnessed something rare, something real. The kindness that doesn't make noise but speaks louder than anything. Ana sat alone later that night, replaying that moment, she thought. About how easy it would have been for someone to sigh, roll their eyes, or look at their watch. But Keanu hadn't done any of that. He hadn't tried to fix her. He had just stood with her, and that, she realized, was more powerful than anything else. But the truth was, this wasn't the first time Ana had struggled. And it wouldn't be the last. The pressure in the industry wasn't always visible. It came in whispers, in comparisons, in expectations. Ana had grown up hearing that she wasn't enough. Not American enough, not strong enough, not fluent enough, not fast enough. Even now, some casting directors would smile too politely and still say, "We went another direction." But that day on set, something shifted inside her, because kindness, real kindness, had spoken, louder than fear. And Keanu's words stayed with her. "We're here with you." The next morning, Ana arrived on set earlier than usual. She stood near the stage, watching the quiet before the storm. The lights weren't up yet, and the crew hadn't arrived. It was peaceful. She held a small notebook in her hand. Inside were lines, notes, little sketches she'd made to remember scenes, but she flipped to the last page and began writing something different. Not a line from a script, not notes from a director, but a single sentence, something to carry with her on. The days her mind blanked again. "The world waits for you." She smiled. She would not let fear steal her light, because someone had reminded her without a spotlight, or a speech, that her presence mattered. Even when she stumbled. Especially when she stumbled. What Ana didn't know was that Keanu had been through something similar not long ago, on another set, another city, another storm, and his kindness came not from a perfect life, but from 1,000 imperfect moments he had survived quietly. But that part of the story was still to come. And when it would surface, Ana would be the one to stand beside him. But for now, she didn't need to know that. For now, she only needed to know this. She wasn't alone, and neither are we. The week rolled on slowly. Ana started noticing small things she hadn't seen before. Keanu wasn't just quiet. He was watching, always paying attention. It's not in a controlling way, but in a present way. Like the time a crew member dropped a box of props and everyone looked away. Everyone except Keanu. He stepped down from the stage and helped gather the scattered pieces. No cameras were on him. No one said thank you, but he still did it. Anna watched him from across the room, her arms wrapped around herself. Keanu moved, like someone who had been through pain, but had chosen not to pass it on. And that made her wonder who had whispered something beautiful to him when he had fallen. On Thursday, the scene was heavy, a confrontation between their characters, a stormy moment full of tension and hurt. The script was sharp, filled with fire. Anna had studied the scene all night. She had memorized every word, rehearsed every expression. She was ready. But something unexpected happened. Right in the middle of the take, when Keanu's character raised his voice, Anna flinched. Not because of him, not because of the script, because something old inside her woke up, a memory, sharpened. Fast. From her early days, a director once screamed at her in front of a full crew, called her replaceable. She had stood still, eyes wide, like a child frozen in a nightmare. Now, years later, that same feeling came rushing back. The stage lights blurred. Her knees felt weak, but Keanu noticed. Even through the role, through the shouting, through the fiction, they weren't just actors anymore. He saw her. He paused. 1 beat. 2. Then, without breaking character completely, he lowered his tone, changed the rhythm, adjusted the energy. Anna looked up, surprised, and because of that shift, she was able to finish the scene. The director called cut and cheered. The crew clapped. But only Anna knew the truth. Keanu had protected her again, without drawing attention, without making it obvious. Just with presence later that day, she found him sitting outside the studio trailer. He was drinking tea, his sunglasses. Rested on his lap, the sun was warm, but not harsh. "You okay?" she asked quietly. He looked up, smiled softly. "You did great," he said. She sat beside him. I flinched. She whispered, "I wasn't in the scene. I was somewhere else." Keanu nodded. Double quotes. "I know," he said. "But you came back." That sentence held more weight than she expected. "It's not always easy," he added, "to come back, to stay present. Especially when the past shows up without warning." Anna looked at him. "Has it ever happened to you?" He didn't answer right away. Just looked out at the horizon. "Once," he said finally. "Maybe more than once." A director cursed at a girl on set. She didn't speak English well. She froze. He told her to go home. No one said anything. I didn't either, and I've never forgotten it. Anna's heart tightened. "What happened to her?" she asked. Keanu looked down at his tea. "I never saw her again." Silence stretched between them. Then Keanu added, "So now, ... if someone forgets a line or flinches or looks, lusty try to be the voice that I wasn't back then." Anna swallowed hard. That day, she realized something she hadn't fully understood before. Kindness wasn't just soft. Sometimes it was made from regret. Sometimes it was shaped by silence that had lived too long in the heart. On Friday, something unexpected happened. They were filming a light scene. Laughter, sun, warmth. Anna delivered a line that made the crew laugh. It wasn't in the script. It came out of her naturally, like sunlight slipping between clouds, and Keanu laughed too. Really laughed, the director kept. It's the camera rolling. They captured a moment that wasn't acting at all. It was real. Anna felt it in her chest. Something that had been gone for a long time. A feeling that she could trust herself. Again, that maybe she was not only enough. Maybe she was wonderful. That night, Yana walked back to her apartment with a small smile. She passed the quiet coffee shop where she had once cried in the corner, afraid she'd never get another role. She didn't stop, but she did glance at it, and silently, she thanked the version of herself who had kept going, the version of herself who hadn't given up. Because without that girl, she wouldn't be here now, and without Keanu's quiet kindness. She might have forgotten how to believe in her voice, but just as the week was ending on a gentle note, a new challenge appeared. A journalist. An interview scheduled for Monday Morning Live. No retakes. no safety net. And the topic: Anna's career, her confidence, and her future. She already felt her throat tighten, because even though the cameras loved her smile, they didn't always love her truth, and she feared her accent would be mocked again. She feared they'd ask about her mistakes. She feared she would forget her words again, but this time someone would be waiting in the green room, someone who had whispered something beautiful before and might need her to return the favor soon. The day of the interview arrived with heavy skies. It wasn't raining, but something about the air felt thick. Anna sat in the car outside the studio building, looking at her reflection in the window. Her makeup was soft, her dress was elegant, but simple. Her hands, though, betrayed her. They trembled slightly in her lap. Inside the building, lights were being set. Microphones tested. The host rehearsed questions, and in the green room Keanu waited. He wasn't dressed in anything loud or sharp, just a quiet suit, black as usual, and eyes that watched without pushing. Anna finally stepped out of the car. Each step toward the doors felt heavier, but she made it inside. And the moment she saw Keanu, she stopped walking. He looked at her like a steady lighthouse looks at a lost boat. She didn't say anything, he didn't either, but he stood up, walked over, and gently touched her shoulder. "Whatever happens out there," he said softly, "you are not your fear." Anna nodded. Not because she believed it completely, but because she needed to try. They called her to the stage. The cameras rolled. The host smiled brightly. "Welcome back, Anna," the host said, cheerful and polished. "You've been everywhere. This year, red carpets, magazine covers, blockbuster sets. How do you stay so calm under all that pressure?" Anna smiled politely, but her throat tightened. She heard the words. She understood them. But something inside her chest was rising. Fear. Memories. The fear of freezing. Again, the fear of stumbling over a word. But then she remembered, "You are not your fear." So she answered, not perfectly, not with fancy words, but honestly. "Some days, I am not calm. I forget my lines. I forget my confidence. But I don't give up. I think that matters more." The host blinked. The crew behind the camera exchanged looks, and Keanu, watching from the wings, smiled faintly. Anna didn't know it, but millions of people would hear that answer later, and something in it would stay with them because it was real. But not all questions were kind. "Some say your accent still makes certain roles hard to believe," the host said next. Anna felt her stomach twist. "Do you ever think about changing it?" Her lips parted, silence followed, and once again her mind began to blank. But just before panic could crash over her movement, in the corner of her eye, she looked to the side. Keanu was standing, not saying a word, but his eyes met hers. And in them, she found ground. "I don't want to change what makes me." "Me," Anna said slowly. "My voice carries my story. And if that's hard for some people to hear, maybe it says more about them than it does about me." The host fell quiet. The air changed. Anna sat still, her heart thud. Dean. But she had spoken, and she hadn't flinched. After the show, the producer rushed up. "That line about your voice? We're clipping it for the main reel." That was powerful. They said. Anna nodded, still catching her breath. Keanu walked over, calm as ever. "How do you feel?" he asked. Anna smiled faintly. "Not perfect," she said.
But real."
"That's better," he said gently. They left the building together, outside. The sky had finally broken, not with rain but with sunlight. Warm, quiet, steady. Later that night, Anna sat on her couch, legs curled beneath her. She scrolled through messages. Some were from friends. Others from strangers. One message stood out. "My daughter speaks English with an accent. She watched your interview today.
Thank you.
Thank you for not hiding who you are." Anna held the phone against her chest, and she cried. Not because she was sad, but because Something inside her had shifted. Not just her fear, but her story. She was no longer the girl who forgot her lines. She was the woman who found her truth in silence. Suck, anyway. But life doesn't slow down when you find courage. In fact, sometimes it tests it 2 days later. The director called for a new rewrite of the big final scene. Anna and Keanu were both needed, and the pressure would be heavier than ever. But this time, it wouldn't be Anna who needed help. This time would be Keanu. And Anna would have to be the one who whispered something beautiful. The studio lights buzzed faintly overhead. It was late evening, and the set was quiet. Most of the crew had gone home, except for a few working overtime to prepare for tomorrow's final scene. Keanu sat alone in the rehearsal room. His script was open in his lap, but his eyes weren't on the pages, they were on the floor. Still distant. Anna stood just outside the door, watching. He hadn't noticed her yet. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired, not physically. Something deeper, like he was carrying a weight no one could see. It started earlier that afternoon, the director had announced that they were rewriting the final scene. One where Keanu's character would break down emotionally. Something rarely asked of him in past roles. This has to hit hard, the director had said. We want raw pain. It's not the controlled stuff. Let's take off the mask. Everyone had nodded, except Keanu. He had just stared at the floor for a second longer than usual. Anna saw it. And that night, when she found him sitting alone in the rehearsal room, she understood he wasn't preparing. He was struggling. Anna stepped inside gently. You okay? She asked. Keanu blinked, pulled himself out of thought. Double quotes. Yeah, just thinking. She sat beside him. A silence settled between them, soft but full. Do you want to run the lines? She asked carefully. He smiled faintly. Not yet. She nodded. It's not the scene, is it? She whispered. Keanu looked at her slowly. His face didn't hide it this time. The pain, the fear. And finally, the truth. It reminds me of her, he said softly. Anna waited. Someone I lost, he continued. Years ago, the scene talks about letting go, but I never really did. Anna felt her throat tighten. He wasn't speaking like an actor anymore. He was speaking like a man, a human being who had carried sorrow like a secret. And now, the script had touched a wound that never fully healed. Keanu stood up and walked to the far wall. His hands were in his pockets. His voice, when it came again, was low. Everyone thinks I'm strong because I'm quiet, but sometimes I'm quiet because I don't know how to be anything else. Anna stood too. Her feet carried her forward before her mind even decided. She walked to him, stood beside him, and said, Keanu, you don't need to let go tonight. Not for them, not for the camera. But if you do, know that someone is right here, not watching, but standing with you. He didn't speak, but his jaw moved, just a little, and his shoulders relaxed, like something had been lifted. Just a little, the next day. The set was packed. This was the final scene, a single take, a quiet breakdown, and everyone was ready, except Keanu. Anna noticed the way his hands tightened before the director called action. But when the scene began, she stepped into it with her full heart, and so did he. His voice cracked at the perfect moment. His tears came, not from acting, but from remembering, from being seen, from choosing to break the silence that had protected him for so long. Anna's character placed a hand on his shoulder, and for a second, the acting faded. It was just two people standing in grief and kindness. When the director finally called cut, no one moved. There was no applause, just a deep silence, a kind of stillness that only comes after something. Sacred. Keanu wiped his face gently. Anna handed him a glass of water. He took it, then looked at her. Thank you, he whispered. For what? She asked softly. He smiled faintly. For not letting me hide. That night, Anna got home and opened her notebook. She flipped past her old lines, her scribbled sketches, her fears. On a blank page, she wrote one sentence. Even the strong need whisper sometimes. She closed the notebook gently. and smiled. What neither of them knew was that tomorrow, something unexpected would happen. The final cut of the scene would leak, and within hours, it would spread across the internet like wildfire. Not because of the acting, but because people saw something different in it. Something real, something human. And for the first time in a long time, both Anna and Keanu would have to face the world as more than actors. They would have to face it as themselves. The morning after the final scene was filmed, Anna woke up to her phone buzzing nonstop. At first, she thought it was just messages from the crew. It's maybe some thank yous or early call sheet changes. But when she opened her phone, her eyes widened. The top trending topic everywhere was a leaked clip. Keanu Reeves breaks down for real. Anna de Armas stays by his side. Hashtags were exploding. Clips had been reshared by fans, actors, writers, even mental health advocates. The scene wasn't supposed to release yet, but someone from inside the studio had uploaded it. Raw, uncut, honest. The tears, the shaking hands. Anna's gentle touch on his shoulder. No music, no edits, just truth and the world. Felt it within an hour. Anna's phone was full of interview requests. Keanu's team was already trying to control the damage. But something strange happened. People weren't mocking them. They weren't criticizing. They were grateful. The internet wasn't laughing. It was crying. Messages poured in from soldiers, teachers, nurses, parents, people who had lost someone. People who had been told to stay strong for too long, and they saw something in Keanu's tears. Permission to feel too hurt, to break sometimes. But inside the studio, things were less warm. The director was furious who leaked it. He demanded in the meeting, "This was our ending scene. Now it's gone viral without context." Anna sat quietly. Keanu too. He hadn't spoken all morning. He didn't need to. His eyes said enough. He wasn't upset about the fame. He wasn't even thinking about the media. He was thinking about the moment, because to him, that scene wasn't just work. It was something he had finally let go of, and now it belonged to the world. After the meeting, Anna followed him outside. The sky was overcast. "Do you regret doing the scene?" she asked gently. Keanu shook his head slowly. "No," he said. But he looked up. "But I wasn't ready for the world to see me like that. Not yet." Anna touched his arm. Maybe the world was ready for someone to show them how. He didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. Later that evening, they got an email from a nonprofit mental health organization. They wanted to feature the clip, permission, in a campaign about emotional strength. They weren't asking for money, just honesty, just truth. Anna read the message aloud while sitting beside Keanu in his trailer. They said, "Dud, we've shown people strength in silence for too long. Maybe it's time we show them strength in breaking." Keanu leaned back. His voice was quiet. "Do you think that's what we did?" Anna nodded. Double quotes, "I think that's what you did?" He turned to her slowly. "Do you know what helped me do it?" he asked. She raised her eyebrows. "What?" Keanu smiled gently. "Your voice. Your presence. The way you stood by me without fixing me, without rushing me. That reminded me I was safe." Anna looked down, her chest tightening. She remembered how not long ago she had been the one lost. She had forgotten her lines. She had wanted to run, but he had stood by her without judgment, without noise, just kindness. And now she had done the same, without even realizing it. "You know," Anna said, "after a long pause, the first day I met you, I thought you were quiet because you didn't want to connect." Keanu smiled faintly. "Used to be, I thought silence was safer, but I've learned silence is only kind when it's shared." Not tilted her head. "So what will you do now?" He looked out the trailer window. The sun was setting, I think. "I'll stop hiding. From the people who actually see me." Anna smiled. "Then maybe I'll do the same." That night, Anna made a decision. She called her team and asked to accept one of the interviews. Not the biggest one, not the flashiest, but the one that had reached out with the most sincerity. She didn't want to talk about fashion or film tricks. She wanted to talk about truth, about forgetting lines, about remembering worth, about how silence isn't always weakness. As for Keanu, took a walk alone the next morning, a short one. No paparazzi. No phones, just air. He passed a woman sitting outside a small bookstore. She was crying quietly, trying not to be seen. He didn't speak, just gently handed her a tissue and kept walking. She looked up, stunned. Not because it was him, but because someone had seen her. Penand responded softly. And that, more than anything, was who Keanu Reeves really was. But something big was coming. The studio had made a decision, and it would change the entire release. Not just of the film, but of the moment that started it all. Anna would soon be asked to speak on live television with Keanu beside her, only this time she wouldn't forget her lines. 2 weeks later, Yana and Keanu stood behind the stage curtain of a live talk show. The host was known for deep questions, not drama. The audience was quiet, respectful, and full. Keanu stood with his hands in his pockets, his posture relaxed but thoughtful. Anna stood beside him, holding a folded paper in one hand. Not to read from, just to remind herself she was ready. She looked at him, nervous. Keanu smiled. "Only if you are." She smiled back. "Not anymore." The producer gave the cue. The stage lights rose. They walked out together. The applause was warm. The host welcomed them with kindness. After a few opening questions, the host leaned forward. "I want to talk about the scene," she said. "The one that leaked, the one that reached millions of hearts. But first I want to ask what made it real?" Anna answered first. "Because it was real," she said softly. "Keanu wasn't acting, and neither was I." The audience leaned in. "We weren't just playing characters who were breaking," she continued. "We were people, showing what it's like to be hurt and still keep going." Keanu nodded slowly. "A lot of us are taught to hide pain, to push through, especially men. But silence can be heavy. Sometimes it takes more strength to let someone see the pain than to bury it." The host blinked slowly, clearly moved. "And how did it feel, going through that together?" Keanu looked at Anna. "It felt like someone had my back. Not just on screen, but off. She didn't fix me. She just stayed beside me," Anna added. "And before that, he did the same for me." A short clip from the scene played behind them on a giant screen. The tears, trembling. Voice in a steady touch. Silence filled the room again. No one clapped. They just felt it. The host looked at them with genuine care. "What do you hope people take from this?" Anna looked into the audience. "I hope people stop thinking they need to be perfect. That forgetting a line doesn't mean you're weak. That crying in front of someone doesn't mean you've failed. And that kindness, real kindness, is quiet. It whispers, and sometimes it saves you." Keanu added. "Be the whisper someone else needs. And don't be afraid to let someone be that for you." When the show ended, Anna and Keanu walked backstage together. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Something had been completed. Not a scene, not a scene. A film, but a circle. Anna had once been the girl who froze under the lights. Keanu had once been the man who stayed silent through pain. But now they had both learned something much greater. Strength is not loud. It's soft. It waits. It whispers a few weeks later. The studio released a behind-the-scenes documentary. It included interviews with crew members who had watched everything unfold. One lighting technician said, "I've worked with actors who hit their marks perfectly, but these two, they hit something deeper. They made people feel safe." A young actress cried on camera, saying, "I used to think I had to change everything about myself to succeed. After watching them, I finally believe I can show up as me." Anna returned to the set for another film a month later, this time when she forgot a line. She didn't panic. She smiled, breathed, and tried again. And a young assistant smiled back at her and said, "Take your time. We're here with you." Anna's heart swelled. She had passed the whisper forward. As for Keanu, he started showing up to table reads a little earlier. He sat beside the quiet actors, the nervous ones, the ones still hiding their fear, and he'd slide a cup of tea across. The table without a word, just a warm gesture, a soft reminder, you are not alone. One evening, after a quiet rap party, Anna found Keanu standing outside under the stars. She walked up beside him. You know, she said, I never did tell you. What you whispered meant to me that first day. He looked over. You don't have to, she smiled. I want to. She turned fully to him. You told me the world would wait for me, and ever since then, I've been walking a little slower, breathing a little deeper, because now I believe it. Keanu smiled softly. Then it was worth saying. They stood. In silence, stars above them, city behind them. Two souls who had once stood on the edge of fear, now grounded, not by fame, not by film, but by kindness and all. Something unspoken that echoed in the heart. A whisper that said you are seen, you are safe, and you matter, even when you forget, especially then.